as much as it pains me to say that, because I held on to those.
Not when you're telling me how good your soldering skills are. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate live at 5. We're live now.
We're live at 5. We just made 5.
We did, just barely. We've already got one share because we cross-posted this, and it happens automatically.
Ooh.
Hey,
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate live at 5 on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon.
This episode brought to you by the Dumbo Octopus.
I thought this was going to be brought to us by the punching shrimp that you talked so much
the
about.
mantis shrimp.
The mantis shrimp.
The other one was.
Yeah, if you
So
listen
you have
to
get-
last week's episode
you have to
with
get-
Jeremy Nunez, you'll know a lot about the mantis shrimp.
Yeah, and you have to get special glass for their aquariums because they punch through it.
I don't. I'm not going to get...
No,
so
if
what's
you
a
wanted a mantis,
Dumbo
Chris.
octopus?
But,
A mantis Chris?
It looks like an octopus wearing socks, and that's all I have at the moment.
Okay,
But
so
this
it's
episode is brought to you by the Dumbo Octopus.
by the Soctopus.
Yeah, I'm going to look up more real quick.
Okay, great. Today we've got a few things that we want to talk about. We're going to start first with the plight of our good friend, Kerri Pomarolli. Now, if you don't know Kerri's been on the show. She's a great friend of the show.
Oh, Kerri is fantastic.
29 appearances on The Tonight Show. She used to write for The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. She's
She
an
used to write for the
incredibly
Babylon Bee.
Yeah. Yes. Cheers. So an interesting thing happened to Kerri yesterday, and she started texting us about it in what was the morning for her, but what was probably like early afternoon for us. She couldn't get into her Facebook account, and all of a sudden her Facebook account became associated with this really weird-looking Hotmail account that none of us had ever seen or heard from before, and we had helped her with a couple of things. She was like, so is this y'all? I'm like, not a chance. We're not Skabucci 7 VP at Hotmail. Well, it turns out her Facebook account now has just, it like doesn't exist. Like you can't go to Kerri Pomarolli's
You can't go see the
Facebook
at Kerri
page.
Pom.
No, she does not exist. And so the really weird thing about this is not only can she not log into her Facebook account because it doesn't exist. Like if you were to type in her email and try to find it, like last night Facebook like made her send a picture of her ID in to verify that she is who she says she was. Like
It sounds like a very talented
Oh
fisher.
my gosh, like
spelled
this-
PH.
right, but it was doing the same thing if you were to try to log in from where we are with like
Like when Jesus said, "Be fisher of men." This is
Yeah,
not
this
what
is
he
not
was
what he's talking
He
about.
wasn't talking about making a fake Gmail account and emailing
so
Kerri.
so anyway, so she's trying to log in through Facebook, and I was on the phone with her last night. We're trying to follow all these steps in order to try to get Facebook to help you do it. And here's my
This is
here's
my
favorite
mother-in-law's
part.
worst nightmare.
Yeah, here's my favorite part about the whole thing. You ready?
Uh-huh.
That the suggestion that kept coming up, if you want to get the attention of Facebook customer support, you know what you have to do? Tweet at them. Like literally,
Okay.
there is no Facebook customer support. There is not like a place that you can go to where you can have Facebook customer support. If you want customer support from Facebook, you need to go on Twitter and yell at Facebook on Twitter in order to get their attention. And Kerri was like, "You got to be kidding!" I'm like, "No, this is not a joke. This is a real thing." And so then
It
we
makes
go
sense.
to the next thing, right? So now I'm going to read this next article. And what's the next article say? Facebook doesn't have any customer support. There's no way to get in touch with Facebook customer support without a login. Yell at them on Twitter. Next one: don't try to get onto Facebook customer support. Just start @ing Meta anytime that you can and start yelling at them from Twitter. So
I mean, it makes sense because they have a scrub team and a lot of people. You know, all the I don't know how many accounts there are on Facebook, but
yeah, billions.
you got to
right?
imagine either Zuckerberg is going to fork out a lot of money for support, or you just deal with the people that are angry,
Yeah, so
making you look bad.
so we threw
Go deal with them.
Yeah, we threw that out there on. So she sends out this tweet after we're talking. It's like @Meta, been locked out of my Facebook account. Don't know what to do. Please help. And immediately you get all of these like super sketchy people. She's like, "Oh, people are trying to help." And I'm looking at the replies. It's like, these are not people that are trying to help. These are people that have had Twitter accounts since 2009, have 3 tweets, and everybody's like, "Go see, so and so for help." Because they helped me recover my
Go
Facebook
to this
page.
link,
Yeah,
unlock.facebook.org/UK.
So there's all of that. Well, the really weird part of this is that her fan page has been untouched. because her fan page had, like our page, for instance, we're both admins on that page. So Danley can make changes to it. I can make changes to it. Well, Kerri doesn't. I mean, Kerri's just Kerri, right? So she wouldn't have given anybody else access to that. So the fan page is up, but the account that it's tied to now is like grayed out. So she can't even log into that account, nor can any of her fans go and click on it and friend Kerri. So it's this really weird situation that she's found herself in. It totally sucks. Facebook did finally today. They're like, hey, we saw your ID. You're definitely Kerri Pomarolli. She's like, great, thanks. Can you help me out? And they're like,
this is as far as we've gotten is we believe you.
Yeah, we believe you. And then that's it. Yeah. So the rest of it is just a disaster. Like, she still can't get into Facebook, which means, and this is the part that really sucks, because if you were to look at our interview, she told us that she takes a year's worth of her photos and she orders the physical photo albums that Facebook makes that have, the pictures of her kids and all of that stuff on them. Well, she hadn't ordered it for last year. So all of the pictures that she's got of her kids and everything that she's put on Facebook, now, not only does she not have access to those, but the one thing that she really used Facebook for in order to keep up with her albums and stuff like that, somebody else had. Now, the people that hacked her account actually started advertising on her account, and I think from the last conversation that we had, she was now fighting to try to get some of those ads taken down on her account, which Facebook still will not let her have access to.
Is that tied to her?
That is her
currency?
Personal account.
I mean, is she?
Oh yeah, I mean it is for all of us, right?
Gotta be,
yeah. If you want to boost a post, you got to get something in. So
that's a jerk move. I gotta say that.
Yeah. So tweet at Meta for us to try to get some help for Kerri. But yeah, that's a totally just gnarly situation that poor gal's got herself stuck in, and she's a gem and is super sweet, and
Kerri
doesn't deserve that.
Hang in there.
You're
a lovely person.
You are. And if
Great
nothing
mom,
else,
super funny.
This is going to be really great in your next special of your Kerri Pomarolli versus Mark Zuckerberg on Dry Bar.
And also, this just in.
Yes.
The Dumbo octopus originates their name from the title character of Disney's 1941 film Dumbo. He looks like it.
Which is a terrifying film.
Also, this feels like a fake fact that the Bears derived their team from a football team in Chicago, a la Strange Wilderness. But they eat prey, including crustaceans, bivalves, worms, and copepods. So that's this week's sponsor.
No Tide Pods, just Coke Pods.
Yeah, Coke Pods.
The Dumbo octopus eats Coke Pods, which is why it has such fancy socks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go, Dumbo octopus, this week's sponsor. Last week, or whatever we did last, was the mantis shrimp, which is way
Read
cooler.
the thing at the top of the Wikipedia page.
Grimpotoothius.
Which is the actual name for the Dumbo octopus.
Yeah, it's the Latin scientific name. Grimmo.
That is not
Toothus.
That is not the name that they got from the 1941 film.
No. I think it got its nickname after Dumbo came out.
Jiminy Cricket and Pinocchio were all sitting around looking at Grimmo Toothus.
Yeah. But seriously, you need to check out mantis shrimp. They're so cool.
Yeah. Okay, so next order of business for today, I have been turned on to a YouTuber named...
Tell me about him.
Named Davie504. Now, he just got a diamond play button, which is what you get at 10 million followers, and he said that he's going to take that diamond play button and turn it into a base. He is it's so ridiculous. He's a really interesting dude, but he's been a professional YouTuber since he was 17. He's got 10 million followers. I had never really heard of him before until this past week, and I got you watching a few of his videos. So give me your thoughts and your first impressions on Davie504.
Well, he's very funny. He's a fabulous bass player.
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah.
And the character that he plays, I'm assuming this is a character.
Right.
It's got to be.
Yeah. He's an Italian guy that speaks English, and all of that adds to this character.
And all of his films, he's in this character that he's created, which is a bass player that is very good and deeply offended by anyone better than him.
Yep. Or by any other instrument.
Say it again.
Or by any other instrument. Like if somebody is
someone else is playing a different.
Yeah, if somebody's playing a ukulele
on
something, he's like, "What is this tiny bass?" Like it's just really funny.
So yeah, he's very funny. He's very good. You had mentioned. I learned more about him from you than I did watching his videos.
Oh, really?
I watched a couple of his videos, and he's definitely very funny. But hearing the summary that you have soaked in was the funniest.
Nice.
With he took bass lessons from as a beginner because he thought he was too good that he had to start over.
Yeah. Yeah, so he does. He's got
give
an
me
entire
those summary.
Yeah, so he's got an entire video where what he does is he goes and he feels like he's too good on the bass, and so he's getting bored with the bass, and so anytime he does something sad, he uses a filter that looks like it's a rainy window in front of him. He's like, "It's very sad. I'm too good at bass. I'm bored," and so he goes and he takes lessons from. He finds online bass instructors and he takes lessons from them. And so this one guy's trying to teach him a bass line, and he's like, "Teach me the hardest bass line you know." I was like, "And you're a beginner?" He's like, "Yeah." And the online teacher's like, "Oh, I'm so impressed." And so he teaches him the hardest bass line he knows, and Davey plays it perfect. He's like, "Wow, you're pretty good. What's the hardest bass line you know?" And he's like, "I've only just started, but because of your great teaching, I can do this." And he plays this impossible bass line, which is something that he wrote for his album called Very Impressive. So if you look it up, if you were to go to check it out on like Apple Music or Spotify, look up the album Very Impressive by Davie504. His real name is David Bialy. And he will talk about himself in the third person. He's like, "The only bass player I hate the most is David Bialy. Oh, he's too good." And then there's a picture of him like from 10 years ago playing something. So he does.
Didn't he make an alter ego too?
Yeah, he did. Davie503 was an alter ego.
I love that too.
And he kept challenging Davie504 to bass lines and in bass challenges, which was really funny. But the series that I first saw was called Bass Around the World. And it comes up, and on the side of the screen is the acronym BASS, and it says Bass Around the World. And it's just totally out of place. But he would watch videos.
Maybe it makes more sense in Italian.
Maybe so. But he's watching videos from bass players in Japan, or from bass players, or bass players that are in India, and he's finding these just incredible musicians of all ages. And he's looking at, you're watching him in the bottom corner, and he's kind of reacting to the video, and then afterwards he's like, epic. And then it's on to the next video. It's like nothing, that's really all that impressive. Or if somebody, is playing a guitar, he's like, "This is not a bass." Next video. And it's, on to the next one. Well, at the end of the videos, he does these bass challenges, right? And he's like, "These bassers are too good. We must destroy them." And then it's him playing side by side with these other bassists. And what is rumored to have happened, right? Because now I'm on like the Davie504 subreddit, right? And I'm looking at all these folks. And so as he's putting these videos together, what he's actually doing is he's contacting these bass players and saying, "Hey, would you want to do a bass battle with me? I'll send you the track. You'll have like 16 bars." And so he'll do it, and they'll record a video of them doing it, and he just splices them together side by side. And it's really cool. There's some bass players that he's looking at that have like less than 1,000 followers, but he's found them. They're incredible musicians, and then he promotes these other bass players. And so just by being on one of his videos gets millions and millions and millions of views, that these bass players that are really talented people that have less than 1,000 subscribers, now all of a sudden their views and their subscriptions are going like through the roof, checking that stuff out. Well, he did this one particular one on young bass players, and there is this kid named Aaron the bassist, Aron the bassist, and every one of his videos, whoever's producing him, I'm assuming it's one of his parents, puts in parentheses how old he was whenever he played these bass lines. He is unbelievable. And he is one in particular that Davey wants to just completely destroy.
It must be stopped.
Yeah, he must be stopped.
This child is going to be a bass god when he grows up.
And he really, already the kid is great. And the thing I love the most about, the videos with Aaron,
bass god with the little G,
is his face. Right. So one of the things that musicians always joke about is solo face.
Yeah.
Right. And
John Mayer.
John
classic.
Mayer is great. Stevie Ray Vaughan's probably got some of the best ones. If you watch his Austin City Limits performance, and it's just you can't. It's weird to describe it. It's this like mode you get in where you are. If you're working on something, there's an old saying of like, oh, you gotta. Well, in order to do this, you got to hold your tongue just right. And like if you watch like Michael Jordan, whenever he's playing basketball and he's making a move, he'll have his tongue out, and well, it's the same kind of thing. Is like as you're starting to do stuff, you make a move from one fret to another, and you're like kind of like willing yourself to do it the same way that you would if you were trying to make a turn on a video game where you're like turning the controller and turning your body, like that's gonna help
like
anymore.
a 4-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. And so
actually, my wife did that when we first got together. She was driving, and I was like, "What are you doing? There's no gyroscope in it. Like, this is the way I do it. Leave me alone."
So the whole thing with Aaron the bassist is the faces that kid makes because he's so into the music are just stellar. And I found his channel because of Davie and several others. So Davie doesn't just do a great job of the videos that he
makes entertaining videos standalone by himself.
But he's also promoting bass as an instrument and is promoting a lot of especially younger YouTubers who are wanting to get into it. And playing the bass battles that he does with these kids are just unbelievable. They're so good. The kids are so talented, and the bassists from around the world that he's doing these battles with are just absolutely incredible. And as a player, I will say this has reinvigorated me to want to learn more about bass again, like seeing all these amazing instrumentalists from around the world, watching Davie504 battle Davie503, all of that stuff, seeing these little kids that are posting YouTube videos.
It seems
that are
like something
8,
you
9.
would do, actually.
Well, I love the way you described him, that you think I like him because why? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
You were like, because he has your energy.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, this is something that I could see you doing, creating an alter ego. Not that you haven't already, but an alter ego just for this, so you can battle him and tell him that he's terrible.
And it's
probably your alter ego that would win.
Yeah, no doubt, because regular me is not as good as alter ego me at anything.
Right.
But
Davie504.
It's been really cool to follow his channel, and I will say
you must be stopped.
There are some of the videos that he typically doesn't use language, but there are some references to some things that are like PG-13 content. So before you just like let your kids watch the videos, I would preview a couple of them. But there are certainly some that are, the majority of them that I've seen are just absolutely phenomenal.
Well, I think he must be stopped.
I think he must be stopped.
And he should come
too.
on our show.
Agreed. Somebody else that must be stopped.
John 5.
No. You just know Marcus Miller, anybody that wants to come on the show. No, is our good friend Kristin Weber.
Oh, yeah. So she must be stopped.
We talked a little bit about the fact that she was coming to the church to do our Valentine's Day banquet, that there would be nothing better than to have a single accordion player entertain a bunch of married people on Valentine's Day. So she came last week. We've got a lot of that performance.
She wasn't doing anything anyways.
Yeah, that's we know you're not busy. She did just an incredible performance. I was so surprised because having watched a lot of her comedy and knowing there's a Dry Bar special coming out, I was so surprised at how well she was able to pull off the accordion parody stuff in person. Because there's always, and like we've talked about this before, especially if you listen to the last interview with Jeremy Nunez, there's a couple of times where we mentioned like, hey, we'll fix this in post or we'll do something in post, right? And there is a lot on the back end of these videos that we do, especially for the primary podcast. With the Live at 5 stuff, not so much. But with the primary podcast where we add in pictures or we'll work transitions or we're adding music in or we're looking at a section and we've got to adjust the sound one way or another, or we might be using multi-tracks and things like that in order to make sure that everything's working the way that we want it to for the visual medium, and not so much with the audio medium because that's a lot easier to do. But when she's putting out these videos of her doing these parody songs, like there was part of me that wondered like how much doctoring goes on there, and by the look of it, like hardly any from what we saw in person, hardly any. And she was
she did
hilarious.
Great. And she debuted a new parody song that was my favorite of the evening.
Yeah, the one that was based off of her
grandmother loving
her
baking
granny's.
soda.
Yep.
Put to the tune of I'm trying to remember. It was a famous song.
Glory, glory, hallelujah.
That one.
Yeah.
And it
was so good.
Yeah, it was very funny.
Yep. And then
it made me think of my great aunt who was obsessed with contact paper. I was like, this is great. This is exactly.
Contact paper?
Oh, man.
Of
everywhere,
all things.
Everywhere.
Really?
Every drawer, on the outside of drawers.
Why would you put contact paper on the outside of drawers?
She put it everywhere. I don't know why she did, but she did.
Wow.
Contact paper everywhere. Oh, yeah. It's a whole inside joke with their family.
Really?
Yeah.
Contact paper.
Aunt Janie. Great Aunt Janie.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm familiar with Great Aunt Janie, but
she was awesome.
Like, why?
She had a refrigerator just for the kids, full of Dr. Peppers and popsicles,
covered
and
in contact paper.
Contact paper everywhere. And a garage that was so packed full that you had to tunnel through to get around. But that was the best part, is we'd had tunnels through the garage.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was so great.
Contact paper.
Contact paper.
I'm trying to think, like, I don't think
the gist of the song was how obsessed her grandmother
was with baking soda.
Baking soda fixes everything.
You know, the one thing, my grandmother was obsessed with two things. One of them I don't think really counts, because one of them is the color red. So, like, everything she had was red. So I don't think that really counts.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because your wife's favorite thing is
purple. Yep.
Purple what?
Everything. Purple, everything. The other thing that she was obsessed with is Mrs. Dash.
Okay.
Like the seasoning,
yeah.
Right? Because my grandfather had either 3 strokes and 2 heart attacks, or 2 heart attacks and 3 strokes, like just massive.
He had
amounts
his hands full
of this stuff, right? And he was always fine.
Is this a salt substitute?
Afterwards, so she needed to find something that didn't have salt in it, because they were afraid there was a blood pressure thing. So my whole life, anything we ate over there was smothered in Mrs. Dash, right? Except for ice cream. But anything else would, like, you want some chicken, we're going to throw some Mrs. Dash on it, right? You want a hamburger, it's going to be smothered in Mrs. Dash. Spaghetti had Mrs. Dash in it.
No, I don't know if I've actually had a salt substitute. Like, how does it taste?
Oatmeal had Mrs. Dash in it. Like, anything that would, like, plain oatmeal, no flavor. We were like, all right, well, we want some cinnamon or brown sugar. She's like, nope, here you go. Ding, ding, Mrs. Dash, done. And it was like... But
how does it taste? How does a salt substitute hold up?
So it's not just a salt substitute. What it is it's like Italian seasoning without salt.
Ugh.
Right. Yeah, that was it. It's like an Italian seasoning without salt. It's rough. That's how it holds up. It's rough.
It's like just pouring oregano on your oatmeal.
But anyway, Kristin Weber, I will have to say first, very, very funny. Such great energy live. And
if you're not following her on social media, you're missing out.
Oh, man. At least 2 or 3 times a week, I'm laughing out loud at just the stuff that she posts. Yeah. It's just phenomenal. And on top of all of that,
I told her parents that. I sat at their table.
That's right. We did have you at her parents' table. Yeah, but her comedy was great. Her parody songs were great. And she did phenomenal with the crowd work. Which, like, at our church,
can be rough.
It can be a little rough, and that's
Jeremy mentioned that. He said at churches, I want to follow up with him on that.
Yeah,
but
please.
At churches, there are a lot of people that not necessarily heckle, but they talk.
Right.
Which at a comedy club would be heckling. But we've had a couple of these shows, these comedy shows here, and this the same guy won.
Well, this time a lot of it was Jason.
That's true.
Jason was responding. So shout out to anybody with a J name who wants to heckle a comedian at our church. Won.
But it was friendly, but it was talking to the comedian.
Right.
They don't need your help.
Yeah, and
that's not what they're
and
there
it's
for.
really weird, right?
Yeah,
because
churches,
like on Sunday mornings, whenever it happens, most of the time it's like an amen or something like that, and it's one of those things that, like, for a lot of preachers, it lets them know, okay, maybe you feel like you're heading in the right direction, or at least that people are awake and they're listening to you. But when it happens in that same setting, but with somebody that's doing comedy, and they're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, what?
Yeah, they might go after you.
Yeah, it's just weird. But she did great with the crowd work. not just because there were people that were heckling her and a guy whose cell phone went off and all this stuff, which was really funny. But she was very very funny, but also very kind in the way that she handled all of that, which just made her great for us. Her info is in the description of this video. So if you don't follow Kristin, go follow her. If you're looking for just a phenomenal comedian, or if you're looking for a great book for your young people in your church, really your late teens and early 20s, her book Adulting for Jesus is phenomenal. Check out her stuff. Book her if you've got an opening or an event you need a speaker at, because she's just absolutely hysterical and so easy to work with. I can't tell you, one of the things that we learned a lot on the road was that there are people that are just not as easy to work with as I hope I want to say as we were or as we are, but as I want to hope that, because we put on almost as many shows as we played in over the years, because so many of those things were things that we had to create an event at somebody else's venue for us and for other people to have gigs, or they would come to us and be like, "Hey, we really want you to play," and it's like, "Great, what's your plan?" And they were like, "We were hoping you would plan it."
Yeah, would you bring lights and sound and all of the things?
and everything, and then we're having to book other bands, and so we really learned by necessity to be flexible, to be gracious, and all of those things. Kristin just does a phenomenal job of that, and it has been my experience that is not always the case. I can't recommend her highly enough from the production.
She's
and
awesome.
The event planning standpoint. Absolutely amazing. So,
and full circle, Kristin Weber and Kerri Pomarolli are friends.
Yeah, they are. That is...
she actually, I believe, mentored Kristin.
Well,
to some degree.
It depends on who you ask, right? If you ask Kerri, she said she mentored Kristin. If you ask Kristin, Kristin says she babysat Kerri's kids in exchange for stage time. So she's like, if you want to call it mentoring, it certainly could be.
I love that.
It just depends on but again, and now we come back to it just depends on what your definition of is.
That's right.
Yeah, and to that end, thank you guys for watching the Reverend and the Reprobate live at 5. This week, we have on with us a guy named Eric Couch. Now, Eric Couch runs a podcast called the Living a Legacy Podcast, but more interestingly...
as much interesting, but slightly more.
Yeah. I
don't know why.
Eric was the best friend of a guy named Bernie Tita. And Bernie Tita was a young man, and there's a movie called Bernie that's out there. I think right now you can find it on...
You may have seen it.
You might find it on Amazon. It stars
starring
Jack Black. Yep, and Shirley MacLaine. And Matthew McConaughey are all in that movie. And Matthew McConaughey's mom makes a cameo appearance. Bernie is a guy who is kind and loving and so giving of himself and gets pushed to his wit's end and ends up killing the person who has kind of given him everything he has.
Shirley MacLaine's character.
Yeah, it's a bizarre story.
Shoots her with a .22.
Yeah, it's a bizarre story. We're going to be covering it in an upcoming Rev and Rep Investigates episode, and we've got the man's best friend here to talk to us about it and what it was like being in the house whenever, because he was Bernie's roommate, what it was like being in the house whenever Bernie's door gets kicked in by the FBI saying, "Hey, we arrested Bernie for killing Mrs. Nugent. Also, that car he bought you, we're going to have to take that back. And you're going to need to find a way to pay for college." So it's, just a totally bizarre story, but Eric was a great interview. We talked to him about his podcast, and make sure that you check that out as well. So until next week, or really until he gets to that, y'all have good give, and we'll see you.
Take care of the oceans.